Hi folks, welcome back to my channel, and I have got such a treat of a deck here to share with everybody today. This here is the Northern Animal Tarot, but this is the third edition of this deck. So if you've seen on my channel before, I have done a review of the first edition, the second edition, and a comparison of the first and second edition. But we are here with the beautiful third edition of this deck, and it just came out, where are we at? This fall of 2023. So I'm very excited to show you what we have here. It also came with some wonderful little extras here. You get some stickers, and just to show you the information card here, so we have the third edition. It is printed on linen cardstock. It is so nice. It is a limited print run of 1,000 decks, and it's also printed locally in the United States. So yeah, this is actually a 100 card deck. If you haven't seen this deck before, it does have 2 Hierophant cards and then a bunch of extra little oracle cards that come with it at the back, and it is such a treat. So this is just a little bit of information that you get here about this deck. And I also wanted to share, because this is coming up pretty soon depending on when you're catching this video, the cat is out of the bag on this. She has announced it on her Instagram, so it's okay to talk about. So she's also working on this beautiful magical creatures deck, and there will be a Kickstarter campaign coming up. So check out her Instagram. I'll link it below. And look at these. I'm rewatching all of the Harry Potter movies right now, so mystical creatures is going to be right up my alley. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this gorgeous, gorgeous deck. So it comes with a lovely little guidebook here that goes through and talks about each of the individual cards, and it also talks about the oracle cards, or the extra cards I should call them, at the back there as well. And there is a new card in this deck that has not been in the previous 2 editions, but we will get to that as well. So what I'll go ahead and do is just flip through the cards in case you want to see this beautiful artwork. Here is the back. It is fully reversible, and check out this cardstock. Look at this. Oh, it's so beautiful. Linen cardstock is my favorite cardstock. It is durable, it shuffles really well, it's still light, and I'll say like thin, but not thin as in like poor quality, but very, like, it is the best you can get, in my opinion, for a balance between having not chunky cardstock and very durable, snappy, still soft feeling cardstock. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and flip through all of the cards here. Sorry, I've got a plane going on overhead here. And yeah, let's take a look at the cards. right, so there are the cards. Take a look at this cardstock again. It is absolutely divine. I adore this deck. And in the creator's own words, Linda from Wilder Heart Studio had said she finally felt that she got this deck perfect. And to be honest, I couldn't agree more. Because when the first and second edition, I have them here, they're not in order, but just to quickly show you sort of the difference between these decks. The second edition, sorry, I may need to zoom out here, but I'm hoping I can keep it here. So the first edition, we are here with this beautiful linen cardstock as well. This deck is always going to live in my heart as a favorite. I've used it so much, and it's like, you can see it's barely, you know what, see? Like it's still in fantastic shape. This deck is certainly a lot more muted. The color palette in it is far more muted and almost beigey type. It feels a little more vintage style versus the rework of the second edition had incredible amounts of color. A lot of the cards were added additional embellishments, I should say, to a number of the cards. And then look at the difference, sorry, of the thickness. So the second edition, the cards are similar in size, but the deck was significantly thicker. The cardstock is much thicker in the second edition. Now the third edition is a lot more reminiscent of the first edition in terms of the color. Sorry, not in terms of the color, in terms of the cardstock. So the thickness of these two decks is very similar, and we do have that extra card in this. Sorry, let's try and pick this up here. In the third edition. So definitely in terms of cardstock, the first and third edition are completely up my alley. Now the third edition does also have smaller cards, which is really nice. They are very comfortable to shuffle, to work with. The second edition as well had the larger cards. Trying to just show as a comparison here. So the second and first edition were quite similar in card size. First edition was a little bit longer. And then you can see this third edition now, we have got a smaller card size, which is really nice to work with as an everyday reader type of a deck. So this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more because I can actually do a in-depth review of working with this deck, as well as talking about how beautiful it is. And okay, one other card comparison I wanted to do here was the Ace of Cups. So nice when the deck is in order and then you are looking for the cards that you are looking for. Here we're at 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the rework of the third edition to the second edition, it's not the same deck over again. So as you can see here as an example as the Ace of Cups, we have some beautiful additional embellishments of the water pouring over. So color palette wise, we definitely have the saturation of the second edition, but the cardstock and the deck size is quite a bit different. And that was also, so second edition, where is my Two of Swords? That was also one of the more powerfully redone cards from the first edition to the second edition here. So it looks very similar to that in the second edition, but here's first edition to third edition. So you can see they are both stunning, they're both beautiful, but in very different ways, and they carry different energies as a result of that. So also to quickly show, the world card in the third edition is now this beautiful tortoise. I think, let's see, can I bring up the world card? These are not in order because I use them. Let's see here, because the world card in each of the decks has changed. This one is partially in order, I guess. Hang on, forgive me. So the world card in each of the decks does change the animal in the center of them. So that is a card that definitely gets a, there we are, it was an opossum in the first edition. And in this third edition, sorry, pardon me, the second edition, we have, I am almost in need of just pausing this video and finding it, but it's got to be right there. We have the raven in the second edition. So I love that. I love that the world is always getting a rework as the decks carry along. So in terms of working with this deck, it reads beautifully, and it reads in ways that it's hard to almost describe how clearly it works. Even particularly like last week or a week or so ago, I was reading and someone had asked me a particular question about if they would find a job that they could bear was the words that they used, right? So it was just an additional level of cute and wild to see. It was the Chariot card had come up as one of the cards, and it's like we have an actual bear in the card. So the deck, I will say, is certainly, it's got a cheeky element to it. It's incredibly clear, and I genuinely work with this deck quite often. So one of the ways that I've worked with this deck is, you know, if you're reading for, I don't know if everybody does this, but sometimes if you read for children or people who are underage, you may not want to use, you know, a Rider-Waite deck for whatever reason. This deck does come in handy in that regard, but I would certainly never limit it to being a deck that is either juvenile or limited to working with younger people at all. I can't even tell you, it's very modern in its takes as well. Like you can even see the Page of Pentacles has these books here. And personally, I will say, I am typically not a massive fan of decks that are animal focused because I find them a bit challenging to read. Like you're trying to breathe into images, what a person would be experiencing from an image of an animal. This deck has entirely changed my mind on that perspective. The Crow Tarot is one that comes to mind. I also have that, but I find I don't reach for it very often. In a similar way, I just don't know, I don't connect with that imagery nearly as much as I do. Like even, they all have these little looks on their faces, and like these cards are just alive. They are absolutely alive when you read with them, and they come forward in the most interesting ways in readings. And even these little extra bits of symbolism that you might not expect to have any bearing on a reading, like there is just an incredible amount to pull from these cards. I think we brought this up in the interview where it's like we have the Queen of Swords, she has her eggs here as well. So there's almost this maternal side of the Queen of Swords that we often don't see or feel in, you know, the Rider-Waite Smith or other similar styles of decks. But this deck is just so vibrant. It is so alive. I could not agree more. And I am shocked because when I did the comparison of the last two decks, I never really said which one I liked better because they were so massively different. We have muted tones and very different cardstock and very bright tones. So they both worked. I worked with both of them in different ways. But this deck is just such... It's really cool to have seen these decks come out because the first one, I believe it was 2020 when this first edition came out. So it's been very cool to follow along on this journey as she's added new editions of this deck because it feels that there's just a freshness and an evolution to how this deck is progressing. And it's like, I don't know, reworking an old friend, bringing new life into something that you know and work with very well. Depending on when you're watching this video, there was a sale on this deck on her website. So I will also link that below where you can get it because it's, you know, it's beautiful to be able to support creators that are putting out fantastic divination tools. You know, I am not someone who likes to buy decks just because they're pretty or just because they are. I mean, I do sometimes, but first and foremost, I'm a reader. I read for myself, I read for clients professionally, and I prefer, and I'm getting a little bit more, what should I say, like cut and dry about needing my decks to be workable. You know, what's the use of just having something that you can't use? These are, for me, divination tools, and this deck for me is one that honestly, like, look at this. Like, you can just feel the emotion of these cards. To me, she's done such an incredible job of bridging an animal deck with the human element to make this just a tool that works really, really well for readings. Like, look at their hand positions. It is so, so sweet. But don't let it fool you. Don't think that it is a gentle deck that will at all shy away from the difficult, the darker, the challenging aspects of life. It really shows up all the way around the board. This is a deck that has worked its way, or made its way to my reading table when it arrived, and it never made it to the drawer. I am genuinely using this deck every single week since I have got it, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with. So let's talk about the look at this death card. Like, it's just, I have so much love for this deck, the whole, every edition of it, but I am very impressed. And I like that I remember when the original deck was coming out, she had put out a poll for which Hierophant people enjoyed more, and I think there was an option for both. I think I said both. And she did end up putting both in the deck, which I thought was amazing. because for some people, you know, one really fit over the other. And this is the new card that has made its way into this deck. And these are great oracle cards to either supplement a tarot reading or to use. You know, there's many different ways you can work with these. The moon phases are very interesting as well. Either if you work with phases of the moon or if you want to read them as a divination tool as well. These 4 cards are fantastic in terms of timing. I think I've said this before about this deck, but we have winter, fall, or autumn, summer, and spring. So timing can sometimes be a tricky thing to pull from our reading. So to actually have a resource where you can tap into what season something may end up happening, very, very helpful. And then you have these beautiful spread cards here as well. So that is, yeah, these are really my honest thoughts about this deck. The cardstock is fantastic. Am I gonna shuffle it? Let's do it. It shuffles incredibly well. You can riffle shuffle it, no problem. The card size of this deck makes that quite a bit more easy. Quite a bit easier than working with the other decks because it is just that little bit smaller. Forgive me, I'm trying to keep in the bounds of my recording space here. So, I mean, it's just a beautiful deck, and, you know, adding your reversals, it slides beautifully. I said it before and I'll say it again, linen cardstock has my heart. So shout out big time to Linda for picking this incredible cardstock on this deck, because it really brought it forward. Oh, see, now I've got the oracle cards in here with the tarot cards, but that's totally fine. So if anyone is interested in seeing a flip through video of, you know, comparing directly the different editions, do let me know, because I'm happy to go ahead and do that as well. If you have, and you know, a lot of times when new editions of decks come out, I don't either myself get or recommend picking them up, but this one in particular, as a reader, if you have either of the other ones and you love it, you would not be disappointed in this 3rd edition. Again, did I show this before? This is the 2nd edition to the 3rd edition. So we've got a much thinner, but not thin as in not durable, but the cardstock is not as chunky, shall we say, as the 2nd edition, as well as you've got the smaller card size. So if you're leaning more towards the highly colored, more saturated, more detailed design like the 2nd and 3rd edition, this 3rd edition is fantastic as an actual tool. This one is out of print now, the 1st edition. I still just really love this deck. These muted tones are so beautiful. I fell in love with this deck as soon as I saw it when I first originally ordered it and backed it on her original campaign. And this guy is amazing. When I've spoken with her on interviews in the past, I am just obsessed with this little guy. He is so cute. So take a look at that. His evolution from his 1st edition to this 3rd edition. It's brightened up a bit. We can see a little bit more of his face, but I mean, both of these are quite different, these two. But cardstock wise, in my opinion, the 1st and the 3rd edition has nailed it. And the size of this just makes it so accessible to use as a deck to read with. So that is what I have to share with you folks on this beautiful, beautiful deck. Do let me know if you have it or if you want to get it yourself, if you have any questions or you'd like to see a flip through comparing the 3 editions, or let me know your thoughts as well. Do you also find, like, are you someone who likes to use animal decks? Are you someone who has struggled with it? Like I said, it's really, this deck has really changed my mind on the perspective of working with animal decks. She's done an incredible job. Her illustrations are so vibrant and so alive. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you at the next video.